Hello, everyone. This is a biology teacher, and I'm going to start a series called Pathways, where I showcase and talk to scientists or people in a STEM field and talk about their pathways into that field. My whole goal here is to create stories and to learn from people, talk to different scientists, and show students that it's not always a very simple path of going from high school to college into a science field. There's a lot of different paths and a lot of different ways that scientists have arrived in their positions. So what I'm trying to do is just showcase and talk to scientists and talk about these pathways to better educate students. Now, with that being said, I try this out with one of my friends from the University of Washington, and for some reason, I didn't get any of the video, but I got all of the audio from our talk. So I'm just going to be showing a picture of myself and Isiah, and hopefully I'll be able to transcribe the audio so you can see it on the screen as well. My future goal is to obviously have video accompanied with the audio, but for this time, it's just going to be an audio file. So with that being said, enjoy the podcast. Well, thank you, Isiah, for helping me figure this out. You're my first pathway segment, so I'm really excited about this.
Oh, really? This is gonna be fun. I'm excited.
Yeah. Yes, I am too. I've been looking forward to this. I've been trying to get people to do it, but everyone's been busy. So I'm like, and then whenever we interacted in Seattle, I was like, oh wait, this would be perfect. I already know Isiah. I don't have to do this with somebody new. So with that being said, I'm just gonna let you introduce yourself and just say, what's your background, and introduce yourself, and just tell me about who I'm interviewing.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Hi. I'm Isiah Newbins. I'm a Ph.D. candidate here at the University of Washington. I study paleobiology and evolutionary biology and ecology broadly. I'm really obsessed with the origin and evolution of mammals, specifically mammals during the time of dinosaurs and systems. I'm really big into thinking about how Earth has functioned through time and how animals have made use of the ecological tools, you can say, available to them, and the interesting relationship aspects of evolution, like extinction, have with the process of evolution in a broader sense. So for me and for mammals, that includes understanding competition between different types of mammals that we have during the time of dinosaurs, competition with dinosaurs, if any, but also largely how are they diversifying and really surviving and making use of a dinosaur-dominated world, right? That's an immense pressure. And for such little animals to not only do it, but do it well enough that after the extinction of the dinosaurs, they can take over the planet, it's kind of an extraordinary thing when you think about it. So that's what I'm about. It's kind of what I'm interested in generally. So yeah.
Is this something that, and sorry to be a creep, I did see on Facebook, I think you had some paleo pictures even as early as 2016. Is that correct? Is this something that you were always interested in? Or is this something that you were interested in paleo and then you jumped into mammal evolution? Or was this, you were into mammal stuff early on in your paleo career?
Yeah, it's kind of a mess, honestly, for me. I've always been interested in biology and zoology and life sciences. I think my parents very early on knew. My favorite shows as a kid were The Crocodile Hunter, Zaboomafoo, right, and these kind of things. But I always did love Jurassic Park. I had a baby blanket that had a Triceratops on it, and I named it Ema when I was a kid. And my mom loves holding that over my head still. Ema is one of the dinosaurs from Disney's Dinosaur. It's a Triceratops. And so I always loved paleo, but my parents always knew I would go the bio route. What kind of way that went, we weren't sure. But yeah, as far as 2016, I was actually a teen intern for my local museum. And I did a bunch of collections work for them. I was technically, I guess the internship was curator and collections assistant or management, something like that. And they took me on my first dig when I was 16 years old as well. So I guess, yeah, in a way, I kind of started doing paleo and science research when I was in high school. And it was one of my first jobs, right? I think before that, I worked at a retail store, and then I worked at a retail store, worked at a pizza shop, and then my third job was being a paleontologist. So pretty
That's
cool.
yeah, that's incredible. Yeah. How did you hear about that program, or how did you get involved with that program at such a young age?
Yeah, I had some teachers, some pretty cool high school teachers, um, and one of them, the geology teacher, she had a student had actually done it before me, and she told my biology teacher about it. And I applied the first time, didn't get in. It's pretty competitive because it's a paid internship too, so it's like literally a job. And so I didn't get in the first time, but the second time I got in. And so it was all my high school teachers. I mean, they all kind of conspired to help me apply once. We didn't get in. They helped me conspire to apply again, and the rest was kind of history from there.
I saw in a I was reading your dig like your dig background on one of the years, and you gave your high school teachers a shout out, and I was like, yep, you probably had some really good support systems there.
Oh yeah, I mean, even like before science, I was really, I mean, science is one side of my life, but I was always like an artist, and I also liked business, and so I did like advanced science, advanced art, and advanced business throughout school, from like middle school through high school, and
Mhm.
all three of those groups of teachers, my science teachers, my art teachers, and my business teachers, like supported me to follow paleo and supported me to do my goals, and like even like my business teacher like give me advice on like, okay, like here's how you like stay successful no matter what you do, right?
Mhm.
Was really really important and really supportive to me. So yeah, I gave them. I think I gave my three like major supporters in those three groups a shout out because they did make a difference. I think without them, I'd be like, I think I was planning on like maybe being a lawyer at one point in high school because I wasn't sure if I could do bio, and I'm glad I'm not a lawyer. I'm glad I'm not a lawyer, and I'm sure a lot of people out there who need lawyers are glad I am not a lawyer. That's what I think is like a real thing.
Let's go into your pathway with since this like my whole focus here is to just highlight different pathways into science. What was your pathway into your like college science career, we should say? So like, why did you choose, what university did you go to, why did you choose that university, what major did you choose, everything and anything about your education before you went to the University of Washington, because I know where you're at right now, but let's go over that.
Yeah, totally. So it's kind of really um, interesting, right? So I think pretty pretty early on for me in choosing the college process and like also kind of what I want to do and how I want to do things. The internship was certainly impactful, but another impactful part of my life was that like neither of my parents had college degrees, right? So my parents, their baseline is like was like you get a degree and we just need you to get a degree or we just need you to go to college, and that was pretty much it. And it was an uphill battle for me. I mean, like I have ADHD and auditory processing disorders. So like pretty early on, I did like not meld with academia well, which is kind of important considering like I work in academia now, right? And so it was a little bit of an uphill battle. In that sense, though, once I got to senior year, I think like I kind of had known I wanted to do paleo or bio, right? And I kind of just picked a smattering of schools that I maybe wanted to look at. So, growing up in Colorado, of course, I looked at CU, which has one of the best evolutionary bio programs out there. I looked at Montana State, which is where I planned on going. And then ultimately, I ended up going to the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. And that choice was because I committed to Montana State, toured it, and it was negative 14 degrees or something like that when I toured this state. And I was like, oh, no, 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 that's not going to happen for me. Negative 14 degrees is not a comfortable temperature. And then all of my friends were going to Colorado, or University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. But I only went there for 1 year, man. I mean, I was there and I was a bio major and I wasn't doing too well. I think that for me, I just realized I was kind of really young. I didn't realize at the time, but looking back, I realized I was really young, right? And I didn't necessarily like have a grip on like, okay, I'm pursuing a really hard field now, a really competitive field now. It's time consuming, and I'm like out of my folks' house for the first time, right? So
Mhm.
I almost failed out of school, and like was like on academic probation, and like was really close to like having to make the decision of like, do I drop out or like what do I do? Instead, I decided to transfer to school in Denver, so closer to my family again. And it kind of felt like a little bit of an ego blow, but now I recognize it as like it was like a necessary career path for me.
Mhm.
And I ended up going to Metropolitan State University of Denver, and MSU Denver. Like shout out to that school. That school changed my life, and the biology professors there changed my life completely.
Mhm.
Um, I went my first year, I still struggled, still was coming out of that struggle of my freshman year, right? Like, supposed to be a sophomore now, but I had this big ego blow of almost failing out of college. Had never failed out of really anything before that after having faced some difficulties early on, right? Like in high school, I was an AP kid and like all this other stuff. And now I was in an area where like I had almost completely failed out, right? And so still dealing with that. I kind of like didn't take school as seriously as I should have, but I landed some internships like immediately upon getting in, which were pretty good for me. So I spent time as a curator intern at a invertebrate zoo in Colorado, a well-known one, the Butterfly Pavilion,
Hmm.
and where I did research projects on like I think my project was on millipede mating. So I like watched a lot of bugs mate and watched millipedes mate and like did conditional variants to make them have more babies. And it was watching when you watch a lot of insects mate and you like go home after your job and your mom's like, "How was your day?" And you're like, "Oh yeah, before I went to my internship before I went to the pizza job, I watched bugs have sex all day." Like that's kind of it's kind of funny. Um, but yeah, that was helpful early on, and then um, still like after that, I still wasn't doing super well, and like I think maintained just like maybe a C minus average, right? And still wasn't looking good for the major. And I remember I tried to change my major to art because I was like, okay, I gave this science thing a go. It's time to go back to what I know, which my default would have been art and business, right? And so I was like, it's time to just say science was okay. And I remember I changed my major to art, but I needed one more signature on my form, and it was the head of the biology office's signature, Dr. Lux. And he wasn't emailing me back. He was not signing the form over email. And he emailed me and was like, "We can talk about it later." Um, that same afternoon, I had gotten my minor or my double major, something like that, officially changed to anthropology. And I had a similar conversation with another professor where he was like, "Yeah, I think I see something happening with you, and I want to talk to you about it." And he pulled me in his office, and he was the primatology professor, and he was like, "I think that I see a lot of potential in you, and you're getting A's in my class without trying." And largely that's due to like childhood of watching like Crocodile Hunter and whatnot, right? That we're going through a primatology class, and I know all these cool facts about primates, and I'm not studying for the exams, so I'm just showing up and getting like B pluses without studying for the exams. I'll never forget. He told me like, "I want you to just take a moment and think about what you could do with your life as a biologist and as a scientist if you just tried a little bit more and cared a little bit more." He's like, "I'm
Hmm.
not meaning to say that in an offensive way, but I see a lot of potential in you, and you're wanting to flush it down the drain because you feel like you've given it your best shot when you really haven't given it a shot at all. You want it to come easily." And so we talked a little bit more, and I like had a little bit of a heart to heart in that moment in time. And he was like, "I think you should think about grad school, but it's gonna take a lot of work for you." And then I later went on to talk to the head of biology, and I was kind of like, have those words in my head. I was like, okay, it's whatever. Like I might brush that off. Get the biologist to still sign the head of biology to still sign my form, so I can be an art major, put it all behind me. And he would not sign my form either. He was
Hmm.
like, I heard you had a conversation with the primatology professor, and I was like, yes. He's like, we're gonna have the same conversation. And so we had a very similar conversation. And so I was met at this point where I was ready to give up on myself in this kind of pursuit of like being a scientist. I didn't even think about grad school as an option, right? Giving all things considered. And I had two like well-established scientists, one a paleoprimatologist and one a cellular evolutionary biologist, tell me like, yeah, you're ready to give up on yourself in this pursuit. We are personally not ready to allow you to give up on yourself. So no. And so the the head of the biology office would not sign my form, and he said, "I'm going to sign your form to go on and take the upper level classes." He goes, "The first class I want you to take is vertebrate zoology, and I want you to take it with Dr. Gagliardi Seeley. And then you're going to take animal behavior with Doc. I call him Doc. I always forget his last name. He's just a professor we all call Doc because he's very endearing. We love him. And we want you to take those classes. And then if you decide you take those classes and you no longer want to be a biologist, you no longer want to be a paleontologist, because I had kind of shared with them that's what I was interested in and what I had done when I was younger, um, then we will allow you to become an artist and you won't have to think about any of this ever again. That's fine." And I think the first class I took out of those two that they said I have to take was vertebrate zoology. I met Dr. Gagliardi Seeley, and things in my life at that moment in time, after meeting Dr. Gagliardi, just clicked in a way that I had never felt them click before. Like it felt like I got my it was slow going at first, right? But it felt like I got my passion for science back, my passion for animal science and paleontology and zoology. It seemed like it all just came back and made sense. And like the last 2 years hadn't happened at all. And so immediately after that, I still didn't take the second class they recommended. I actually went with Dr. Gagliardi on her advanced course, like an even more advanced course. I think it's like almost a senior junior level course, and I was a sophomore. To Costa Rica, and I did Costa Rica field study course. So now I'm doing hands-on field tropical biology in the middle of the rainforest. And I'm doing a project that she's having me do with somebody in her lab. I wasn't sure if she wanted me to join her lab at the time, but the overall goal is that she did, and she was kind of just seeing what the vibe was, right? And so then me and my friend Blanca are out in the middle of the rainforest in the middle of the night, and we're recording and measuring efficiency of leafcutter ants in the different biomes of Costa Rica, right? As we're all on this trip together. And then it like pretty much from there, dominoes just kind of fell into place, right? It became this like talk with those three professors on like, okay, what is the overall goal to getting into grad school, right? What does this look like for me? How do I do research? And I joined Jen's lab, right? And then continued to do research with her throughout the years. We did research on, she does animal behavior. So we did research on convex cichlid mating. So once again, I'm watching animals have sex, but that was fine. I was okay with it. I was appeased. It wasn't necessarily paleo, but I was appeased. And so we're doing that research, right? And that's all going well and swimmingly for me. And I'm learning things and I'm picking up things super fast and qualifying for the couple of courses and took the animal behavior course that they recommended. But then also I took pretty much every other course under the sun that MSU Denver had that was animal biology related, right? On top of doing research projects with Jen and then doing other research projects as well. And then also spearheading my own research projects in which I approached Jen my senior junior high school, or not high school, sorry, college. Well, college. And I told her like, hey, like, I think I'm becoming interested in mammals after taking mammalogy. I don't know why. I don't know how. I think I just found them endearing and I found them similar to us, right? It's also the first time I heard the words multituberculate, which, as you know, I love multituberculates, right? And so I became hooked in that kind of sense of like the the evolution and radiation of mammals, but also in modern mammals how they behaved. And so then I was doing research projects on coyote hunting behaviors, right? And if they're more likely to hunt with a partner or hunt by themselves, and that's all undergraduate research that was spearheaded by myself, right? Where I had Doc and I had Jen signing forms for me to do these things in like state parks and state reserves by myself, and I'm talking to park rangers and whatnot as if I'm already kind of a grad student doing this work, and it's completely like by myself. I'm using it for courses, of course, right? But it was the research experience I kind of needed, and then I applied for grad school shortly after that, and it was good. Of course, I had met Greg too. That was a big part of it, right? Like um, talking to the museum, volunteering for them again during that time as well, meeting or them telling me to reach out to Greg because he might be somebody I'm interested in,
Mhm.
and meeting Greg and kind of realizing like, oh yeah, this is what I want. Like this is what I have to do. So yeah, there was a lot, but there was a lot going on at once, and that's how it felt. Right, it felt very overwhelming and fast, and it did. I mean, that happened within a 2.5 3 year span. So yeah,
I love everything that you're saying. This is absolutely what I'm my goal is for one of these interviews. I'm going to backtrack a little bit. When you said you struggled initially with your ADHD, I think you said ADHD or
yeah,
ADD.
ADHD. Yeah,
What did that look like, and how did you overcome that? Because I think a lot of students may have that as well, or something close to that, and they don't maybe they kind of hit a wall, and they don't know maybe how to overcome that. So what are some things that you encountered that helped you, and just that process?
yeah. So I think it's twofold. I think very early on in my life, it was more of the understanding on my parents' end of like, okay, this is something that our child has, right? So like middle school through high school, like how to deal with it and cope, like medications, whatever, studying plans, whatever. But that all changes when you get to college, right? Because it's like a self-managing thing. And what I found, especially after I had stopped struggling in this like way where I was like so new to college and I was doing great, um, what I found is that it's not necessarily this thing that you have to overcome or that you're going to overcome, right? This is just part of the way your brain works and it functions, right? Um, and it's part of you. So you can look at it as if you're fighting a bear, right? Or you can look at it as if you're going on a hike and you know bears exist. You're probably going to see one. It's going to divert your plans for the rest of the day. But there are options for that, right? And so for me, a lot of those options include things like planning around times when I'm like, I simply cannot focus on something, right? So having multiple things to do. If I can't focus on one thing, sure enough, I can focus on another thing, right? But then also another major one is I think with like having learning disabilities or even like some sort of like mental health barrier in general, you don't always get the luxury of just like being able to tough it out through something, right? Like, so understanding that and knowing that there are times when you're gonna have to build in breaks for yourself, like quite literal breaks where you're like, you know, I cannot obsessively do something right now or do the work I need to do right now. So I need to take a break for myself and come back later. And luckily, with like science and even in college too, there's a deadline to get things done for sure. But that doesn't mean right now is the moment you have to do it, right? As long as you have done and given yourself enough time in advance, you can take that day off from doing things and know that you need to bring your all the next time around, right? I mean, you do track, right? And so you know that my little brother did track, and so there were days where I remember he's just like, "Oh, today's race might be rough, or today might be rough," but when it comes to the meet, when you're on the track, you've got to lock in, right? And so allowing yourself the space to be like, it's okay to not be on top of it right now, but when the time comes for me to have to get this thing done and have to get myself moving, I've got to be able to lock in and run the course. So, yeah.
I think that's a great response of just that self realization of like, hey, I need a break. I need that. I need the mental health balance. But then when you do come back, like you said, just jumping right into it and saying it's time to perform now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, yeah, that's powerful. Yeah, I like it.
I mean, I think in science too, we always have this, especially in academia, we have this like perspective where you're like, everybody's on top of it all the time. It's so competitive, right? And it's like, yeah, but even athletes need a break, right? And like, it can be competitive, but if you're going into something and you're not putting in 110%, what some would argue, what's the point, right? Some ends it's like it's good to put in 60% when you can, but if I can put in 110% and I all I know is I need a day off, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna take that day off and then come back and put in 110% and be okay. Mm-hmm.
Focus on your application to the University of Washington, because obviously that's not how I know you. I know you through the DIG program and the University of Washington's Paleo program. What did that look like for you? You talked about a little bit meeting Greg for the first time, but that process of going from your undergrad to your graduate courses, your PhD, like you're a PhD candidate. What did that look like, and what are maybe some difficult? I'll just stop there. What did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, and I tell my undergraduate students this all the time, it's kind of like it's kind of like a flirting process in a weird way. I don't know if that's the best analogy for it, but you kind of have to like, from my end, and my perspective is you email the professors and you get a sense of where they're at. Not always, like not all professors are always looking to take students for grad programs at that time. Um, in part that's because of funding, in part that's because they just don't have the mental capacity to mentor another student, right? You can imagine all of the work that goes into a PhD student, all the work and money that goes into a PhD student, right? Funding projects and looking over papers and teaching and mentoring them. And sometimes people just don't have the financial or mental capacity to have another student at the moment in time. And so that's step one, is figuring out if they have that, right? Step two for me personally is a personal connection, where I, through the process of trying to figure out if I wanted to go to grad school, ended up talking to a lot of PhD students that I knew at the time, or family members of mine who had done something similar, right? Done like a higher level degree. And they hated their advisor. Absolutely hated their advisor, hated having to go see their advisor, hated having to talk to their advisor, hated having to do their research. And it's really weird because we think of jobs in science and academia as these like really fun jobs, right? And these like jobs that people are so lucky to get to have, and to hear that people are like taking on those jobs and hating them because they don't like their advisor or their boss or what they have to do, like I couldn't imagine that being me. I really didn't want it to be me. So every professor I emailed, every person I talked to, I put a lot of weight into the do I like this person? And that sounds really shallow, and in part it is, but that's sometimes okay, right? And the fact that's like, do I like talking to this person? Any professor out there, all academics have their specialty. Any professor out there can make you into the scientist you need to be to publish papers and do the science and whatnot. That's great. But not all professors can make you have fun doing it, right? Or give you the freedom to have fun doing it. And so for me, that was a big thing where no matter where I ended up going, whether it was, I think I had applied to Cornell as well, and I applied to Michigan and some other places. No matter where I ended up going, I wanted to make sure that I liked the person I was working with, right? I enjoyed talking to this person. I can go grab dinner with this person and chat about science or chat about regular life. And in some ways, like I could be friends with this person, even though they kind of are like my boss a little bit, right? But that was a big one for me. And that is something that with my undergraduate students who are applying to grad school, that is always my step number one. It's like I've even had a few apply in the last couple years, and they're like, "Well, this person will just turn me into a really good scientist," but I've heard that they're a little rough, and when I talked to them, they didn't seem like they were like the nicest person, and it's always a hard conversation to say, "I'm going to stop you. Don't do it." You know what I mean? It like even if it's your only option, if you hate every second of it, but this is what you're dedicating your time to and you're like working your butt off to get to, is it worth it if you hate every second of it? No, it's not. And so for me it was the making sure I like this person. And so with Greg, that was like I think I emailed Greg and emailed him like really long, probably like several grammatical errors email and like was like, I'm really interested in working with you, and he emailed me back and he invited me to come out to Montana to do a dig with them, right? Because he had been a curator at my museum at one point. He knew all the
Hmm.
curators that I had at that time. At the end of college, I started working for them again, like as part of a job. They had given me another internship and were paying me. Um, and so he was like, "Yeah, come out. Let's do a dig." And so I worked on the flyby triceratops that's here at the Berg. And I did that for like 2 weeks, I think, with Kelsey Abrams, the head prep person at the Berk, and Greg, and kind of like really started to really vibe with the crew and like fall in love with the crew and the UW team, right? And then after that, it was a constant like staying in contact thing. I think that in the busy world of academia, it can be really easy to let emails fly by from students or things like that. Or a lot of people will like just forget to email somebody back or forgets about somebody, right? And I wanted to make sure that I wasn't one of those people that the professors I'm interested in could forget about. And so consistently staying in contact with people. So every couple of months, like, hey, Greg, I've been reading this book and I've been thinking about this, right? And he'd give me like new things to read. And he's like, oh, maybe you'd be interested in this. And then every couple of months, I'd be like, hey, Greg, yeah, I did this. And also, here's pictures of the coyotes I'm studying right now, right? And so that was step two in that. And then last step was just applying, which is always a nerve wracking process because you don't know the end result of that. But that step process looked like kind of basically what the college application process looked like. Some schools take like a generalized application, some don't. You can take standardized testing. I don't. Maybe this is maybe not the best place to say this. I don't recommend taking the standardized testing because for me, as a student with somebody who had to do this big turnaround in their GPA, it didn't cover all of the internships and research hours and tropical field courses and research I did, right, and all the things I had done on my own. Those were all part of my application itself, and so I wanted to rely on more so those things than just my grades or taking the standardized test that would just give this person a score of like this is how well he knows the Pythagorean theorem. And so, um, yeah, so I mean, you could take the test, you could not take the test. And then, yeah, and then kind of just like hoping for the best. I came and visited UW right after filling out my application on my own merit. So before I had even known if I got in school, came and visited UW and met all of Greg's grad students again as part of that thing of like, do I really want to go here? And asked them if they liked it, how their research was going, things like that. Got a feel for the school, and then just waited for the best until I heard I got an interview and did the interview. And the rest was kind of history. I interviewed during COVID though, which was crazy. So
I
like,
was just going to ask because I was like, well, he graduated in 2021, right?
yeah,
And so I'm like, man, he must have been applying right at the height of COVID. So that must have been an interesting process that hopefully, fingers crossed, we never have to go through again. But
yeah, right, yeah. I mean, it was weird, man. Like, cause in some ways, I'm really thankful for it because I see the applicants come here now, that like the people who are interviewing now, and they're interviewing in person, which is so nerve-wracking. I mean, they get a free trip to Seattle, but like it feels so much more high stakes, right? But for me, it was like I was still living at home after I had moved back from Colorado Springs to my parents' house in Denver, and I'm like in my mom's office in like fancy like just a fancy top and like I think shorts I think is what I had on, and I'm like in this button up shirt sitting on my mom's desk like trying to be professional, giving professional answers and talking, and the interview would be over and I'd be like, okay, I can close the computer, like I can go like pet the dog, like take a moment, take a break, and yeah, so that I kind of I that part was really nice because there was a break, right? Nobody had to see me like freak out or anything besides my dog. So shout out to my dog for that. But nobody had to me freak out. But the interview process can be daunting, right? Because it's like,
yeah,
I mean, it's a big headspacey thing. One of the best pieces of advice though I got, like regardless if it was like interview in person or online, like I did, was from my friend Kirsten, who was here at the time. She's now graduated on. And she said, if you're at the interview for grad school, it means you're qualified. So don't come here and try to show us that you're qualified to be here because we already know that you're qualified.
hmm,
We want to see who you are as a person and your vibe and if you would fit in with us here at UW. So the best thing you can do for yourself right now is just be yourself, have fun, and honestly, in some ways, be naive about the science you want to do, right? Be knowledgeable. So for me, it was bringing knowledge to the table about like mammals and mammal behavior and some sorts of like ecology and things like that. Be knowledgeable and be honest about where your knowledge level is at, but be yourself is the best you can do because we don't care about you as an academic right now because we've seen that already. We can see that on paper, but we want to know who you are as a person. So,
yeah.
yeah, that was. I mean, that regardless of in person or over a Zoom interview, I think that like that holds right. And it was very helpful for me via Zoom interviews to be like, okay, yeah, like I'm in my physical comfort zone of my house, right, or my mom's office, and I can just chill and just be myself and have fun during this time. It's gonna be good. So
I think that students, and I think this is exactly what you're saying. When I talk to my students about their process of, applying to college and, just getting into into that hemisphere of what does a college student look like, they get so worked up about their academics. They get so worked up about, their grades and stuff. And I try to like tell them like, it's that, but it's so much more. Like you said, it's those interpersonal connections that you make with people. Or they ask, do you have favorites? And I'm like, well, yeah, it's the students that that talk to me and have those interpersonal connections, those interactions, and joke around and I said, it's hard to have those with everybody, but it's important to at least try to make those connections, especially with the teachers that you really are looking for furthering your education with, just to see if you would be a good fit, like you're saying. So I totally agree with what you're saying.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's I don't know, it's important, and I think for me, even part of like the research program I guess I kind of help Greg with here in a way, right, with our undergraduate students is like the undergraduate students that help me with research. I know all of them personally. Like I know who they are personally, even if I met them inside of a classroom, right? So I have a student who I TA'd her class, right? I taught her a lab course, but since then I've gotten to know her personally, right? Like I don't know just what her school schedule is like, right? I know that she likes to play video games and likes to collect retro video games and things like that. Or like one of my students I recruited at my climbing gym, right? And like he became like a great asset to my team, right? But I could have never known that that would have that's what he would have turned out to be, right? I just kind of knew that he was somebody looking for research experience. He had a good personality and he was hungry to do good work and have fun doing it, right? And so, um, yeah, I think that's like really important, right? Like it's like I don't have favorites. I mean, I guess my personal students are my favorite. I will say that my research students are awesome. But 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 when it comes to this, like, oh, the grades, this and that, I could care less if you are a 4.0 student or a 2.0 student because I've been both, right? But what I really care about is like, do you want to learn? Are you going to have fun doing it, right? Because if you're just looking to get research credits and complete a checklist, that's maybe not what I want to to do, right? Versus like
Mhm.
you're like, hey, I'm really interested in this, even if it's not what I'm going to do. I'm really interested in this. I think it's cool. I think it's fun, and I want to have some fun while doing research. That speaks so much more volumes to me about who you will be as a researcher because I know that I can if I want something from you, I can help you to get it to the phase where it's good, right? Like to where it's like good science, decent science for me to use or for anybody else to use or for you to use as an undergraduate research project. That's fine. I feel like as a mentor, as far as like progressing the PhD program, I can do that, right? But what I can't do is I can't make you interested. Like I straight up can't. That's just not my job. But if you're interested in even just this smidgen of thinking about having fun, then the grades of it all, the how good are you on paper of it all goes to the wayside, man. It's just another checklist thing, really. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I can definitely see what you're saying there.
yeah.
I'm going to ask one more question because again, I don't want to take too much of your time. My last question, and I'm feeling we're gonna have to do a part two for this because I have more than one question, but let's just end on one question.
Okay.
So we've talked about your pathway through high school into college, your pathway through college into your PhD program. What's something about your PhD program that maybe you wish you would have known? Maybe not specifically about your PhD program, but like what's something about just being a PhD student that you wish you would have learned beforehand that maybe just kind of like open your eyes to science in a new way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Hmm. I guess I'd say that's a hard one because it's like
Yeah.
currently in the throes of it, right? I guess my major one is like I've had themes for my PhD program in my head the last like couple of years, and looking back, I think the one thing I wish I could have been and known going into the PhD program is to be more naive. Um, in the way that I just got done ranting about how necessary it is to be open about having curiosity. That comes from the idea or the fact that I started my PhD program and I was so headstrong about a lot of things, right? And it closed me off to this amazing ability or the amazing opportunity, I should say, that I had to learn, right, and to just have fun learning. Because early days of PhD are so like inconsequential, at least here at UW, right, where it's like you need to read papers, you need to do rotations in labs, and that's it. Like, and maybe you need a TA course, right, depending on the funding situation. And I didn't, so my job was to read, and my job was to do my rotations. But I think I was so headstrong in trying to prove that I was a PhD student and that I belonged in science, that I forgot that they already knew that, right? Even though I like said Kirsten told me that it was in my head I think it was a different level because I was at the PhD program and so I felt this almost competition to like continue to prove why I was worthy to be there when nobody in the room was looking at me for that. They were looking at me for what are you learning? What are you interested about? What are you excited about? Like how can we help you be more excited or how can we help you develop the skills to then take your excitement about a subject and formulate a hypothesis around it, right? Or can we give you papers to read that would make you maybe adjust this hypothesis or make it better, right? So in some ways, I wish I was more naive. I wish I was more curious, and that's something I've been trying to stick with right now, and like just opening up myself to say like two very important things that I think all scientists, especially in like today's climate, should know how to say. And is why if you don't understand something, and I don't know if you don't know something, right? Like I think I remember having a meeting with Greg in his office my second year, like 2 years ago, and being like, "How can I understand all? Like, how do I need to know all this?" And Greg was like, "You don't need to know all this, but you need to know what you don't know, and you need to be able to be comfortable saying I don't know. Because if you say I don't know, but turn around and go, I don't know, but here's the authors I would look at to figure that out. Or maybe here's how I test that hypothesis. That's powerful because that's your job as a scientist, right? Your job as a scientist is not to know things. You're not a dictionary. That's why papers exist. That's why libraries exist. That's why knowledge exists in general, right? That's the job of those functions, those groups of beings, is to know things. Your job as a scientist is to not know things, and then to have the courage to say, I don't know, but I'm interested in figuring it out. And so for me, that was just so immensely powerful to realize not only my second year, but then continue to walk through my PhD program with, because now I find myself looking at other PhD candidates in times when I'm asking them questions and I'm like, hey, what do you think about this fossil? Right. And I don't like, I'll, even if I have an idea of what it is, I'll say, hey, what do you think about this fossil? On my end, that requires a lot of being like, hey, this is my study system, but maybe I'm a little unsure, so can you help me? Right. So it's advocating for help, but also it's saying, hey, what do you think, other PhD candidate? And some of them respond to me and go, well, so and so said, and I'm like, okay, cool. What do you think? Right? Like continue on to say like, okay, I got it. Thank you for what the literature says. What do you think? Right? And if they don't know, that's also very insightful, right? But it also gives you this comfort of being like, oh, I'm not behind the trend. Oh, I don't need to prove myself of being here. Oh, other people are just as curious about the subject as I am, or just as like not as informed about the subject as I am, and that's okay. But you can learn together and also kind of grow together. So I think for me, that's my big one. Is just I wish on so many levels I had hit the brakes on how headstrong I was to get through the PhD program and prove that I needed to be here, because there's plenty of times to do that, and the way you do that is by the work you do and the students you mentor and the papers you publish, right? Um, and it's not by being headstrong and saying you know things when you don't, right? And in fact, really the opposite is kind of a more green flag, is saying I don't know, but I want to find out, is much more efficient.
That's something I told my students a lot too, or not say a lot, but is just having the courage to say I don't know. But like you're saying, you just can't stop there.
Yeah.
I when you said there was two things, and you said why, I was like, oh man, if he says I don't know for the second one, I'm so happy, because that's something I preach is especially in today's society, like you said, it's okay to say you don't know. But I think
Yeah.
we just always want the answer. We always want to have the answer, even if it's not right. It's at least an answer. So I
Yeah.
well, Isaiah, thank you so much for this. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate. We're gonna have to do this again, and I'm gonna have
Yes.
to actually weed down these questions because I have way too many questions. But I just wanted to thank you again. I appreciate you doing this for me and just taking time out of your day.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it, and thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun, and I look forward to part two, man. I mean, yeah, bring it with any questions. I set aside time today, so I can set aside time next time too, and we can just keep going if you want. So
Maybe next time we do part two in person.
hell yeah, I'd love that.